Welcome to Swigs Talks Football, a bit more of a new layout as to this. So, welcome one and all, and Happy New Year to all of ye. And we were going to kick things off, hopefully, with the right heads. Hopefully, everyone is having a good time, or had a good time, I should say, over New Year's, and that the heads are a bit less sick now, and that we are good to go and good to kick things off. First off, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone and anyone who has already watched some of the videos that have been put up about the predictions over the last 3 or 4 game weeks, and as well to some of those who've also subscribed. It was really actually shocking that that some of you actually did subscribe. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for all the views and just the interactions with the videos as well. So it's really appreciative, and thank you so much for that. That being said, if you're new and you like what you hear and like what you see, please drop a thumbs up down below, and also underneath here you can follow the socials at Swigs Talks Football, mainly on YouTube. The Twitter or the X is kind of just up and running, but mainly it is down. Oh no, this one down below on YouTube. So Swigs Talks Football for all your predictions for Premier League, and also they'll be starting some Spurs content as well. Even in terms of with signings, predictions, transfers, all that lovely stuff. But for now, we are going to step away from that. And we're going to go straight into our game week 20 predictions. So I'm getting these just out just in the nick of time before the first game of Villa versus Forest kick off. Villa versus Forest are 2-0 at the hand. Well, they lost 2-0 to Everton last week, whereas Villa, on the other hand, they lost 4-1 to the Arsenal. So Villa, they'll both be looking to bounce back from their sides' defeats. So it'll be interesting to see how they go with that. I'm predicting a Villa should win comfortably with a comfortable 3-1 victory for them. Emery will want to kick on from last week's humiliation at the Emirates, and I think this will be the game to start off that. Next up, we have Brighton versus Burnley. So Brighton and Burnley both. Burnley looked very well against. Was it United that they played last? If you bear with me one sec, will I find it? No, sorry, Newcastle. It was Newcastle that they played, not United. United played Wolves. So Burnley looked very good against Newcastle in the last kind of 10, 15 minutes of the games, but that seems to be a reoccurring thing whenever you're against Newcastle. They seem to be somewhat okay 65, 75 minutes, but then it's the last 10, 15 that they kind of switch off, which then soak up an inviting pressure. Whereas for Burnley, so it'll be interesting to see how they go from that and bouncing back from a 3-1 defeat against Newcastle. Brighton, on the other hand, they were 2-all drawers with West Ham last week out. They'll be looking to kick on the new year as well. That being said, I can see this being mainly a Brighton win. 2-1. I'm going to go with a 2-1 to Brighton. I think they'll have just too much for Burnley, but Burnley did look like they were showing glimpses of what they could be, especially when Broja came on as well last week out, or last time out. He looked good link up play with himself and Edwards as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they go, how they perform going forward. Next up, Wolves West Ham, a battle of the bottom of the table, both sides in desperate need of the 3 points. West Ham have completed have two signings in recent times. One from a striker, get the name is Tony something from. So apologies for that. Tony from Lazio, as well as Pablo then from the Brazilian league. I could have that wrong though. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. Do they add the goals? Also, as well, I read this morning that West Ham are looking to bring in Adama Traore on a 6 month loan, or a 6 month contract, sorry. So it'll be interesting to see how, if they get him over the line, will that contribute um, to West Ham's survival? Be interesting to see. Wolves, on the other hand, they don't seem to be doing anything too much early on in the transfer window. But that being said, they showed great heart, in fairness to them, against Wolves last week out, and so it'll be interesting to see how they fare this week. That being said, I'm going to go with a West Ham 2-1 win. I think West Ham going forward just have too much for them, and they will yeah, I think that they'll struggle to get that to get over the line in that sense. Next up, Bournemouth versus Arsenal. So Arsenal, obviously, last week out they beat Villa comfortably 4-1. Looked really, really promising, really strong and dominant, both in midfield, obviously, and defensively sound, obviously enough with Gabriel coming back, making an instant return to the lineup, to the how Arsenal performed, scoring the goal from the set piece. So I'm going to go with an Arsenal 3, Bournemouth 1. Bournemouth can't really seem to get going at all. They've only won one, I think, in their last 9 games, so they're really, really struggling. Maybe it's the talk of Semenyo as well leaving, but that's kind of upbeat their season a little bit. But it will be interesting to see if they can get a result from this. I don't see it. I see Bournemouth losing and losing well. But you can never lose well, but lose well in terms of they're going to concede a lot. So yeah, I think Bournemouth 1, Arsenal 3. Next up, we have Leeds versus United. This one should be a really good game. It's going to be one of my games to watch over the season or over the weekend. Sorry. Leeds looked really well against Liverpool last time out. Even though it was a draw, they seemed really defensively sound. They performed really well, and I was very impressed with them. On the other hand, then we've United of Manchester. Uh, so they did not do well at all against the mighty Wolves. Couldn't get it over the line to 3 points, and obviously there's been talks of they're missing key players with Afcon and with in the likes of Diallo and Mbuemo. That I would argue is more of an excuse as to just saying that they didn't do well, they just weren't performing at all. So that being said, though, I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory Leeds. I think Leeds have shown in the past against the big teams that they're well up for it. The fact that it's at Ellen Road as well will probably be on their side. They'll be wanting gun ho football, I would hope, just to be entertained. But I think Leeds will just have enough. Just have enough. Dominic Calvert-Lewin brace. I'm hoping for fantasy as well. That's mainly the reason. Next up, then Brentford and Everton. Now, bear with me with the scoreline on this because I have gotten this to be an entertaining game in terms of scoreline. Maybe on the eye, it might be a bit different. So actually gone with Everton 3, Brentford 3. I know you might be thinking, where are you getting 3 all from? I just think out of all the games this weekend, maybe the Leeds United, but I feel like Everton, Brentford, it has the makings of both teams are really, really solid defensively. Both teams have that player, that creative spark that can ignite anything. You have with Brentford, Sharda looks in red hot form, and you've Thiago up top. Everton, then on the other hand, then you could have the likes of Thierry Barry. He seems to be really coming into his own, as well as the likes then of Grealish. Maybe if he kicks on also. And as well, worth pointing out, I've been really impressed with James Gardner as well in the midfield as of late for Everton. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes up against the veteran in Jordan Henderson. So for that reason, I'm going to go 3-all draw. Might be wrong, but there's always one wild card in the weekend anyway. So I said, why not? We'll go with them. Next up, then Fulham, Liverpool. Fulham and Liverpool. Liverpool look really. They look like they're in neutral most of the games. Wirtz hasn't gotten going at all. He really looks like a shell of the person he was at Leverkusen. They didn't really create anything against Leeds. They had a couple chances. Ekitike missed a header, all right, but other than that, they didn't do anything to show that they're anything like a title challenge. Never mind a top four challenge. However, that being said, they're up against a Fulham side who last time out they drew 1-1 with Palace. Fulham at home, I would say they'll put up a fight, but they won't. I can see Liverpool just having too much firepower against the Fulham defence. So for that reason, I'm going to go 2-1 win for Liverpool against Fulham. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw, but I think Liverpool just have too much going up. Next up, then Newcastle versus Palace. Newcastle, like I said earlier, 3-1 victory. Visitors against Burnley. They look great or not great. Great might be an overstatement. They look good out of possession, but it's when they're in possession, they're shocking. They're like wet rag. They just cannot hold the ball at all for possession wise, and I think that's really been a detriment to Newcastle's performance, but also even the wide players. I think the likes of Elanga kind of feeds off of balls being zipped into him, so he can attack the opponent's left back. And I don't think Newcastle they don't have a player for that. They have three eights. Maybe Tonali and Bruno could drop in as a six, but for me they have three eights, no creativity at all. Maybe if Harvey Barnes is starting, I would say him, but Eddie Howe seems to be very loyal to Anthony Gordon. So, but I don't agree. I don't see how he can be when Barnes has shown even this season that he's been the much more proven clinical winger. Um, but that being said, I'm gonna still go with a Newcastle win against Palace. Palace seems like they've been struggling as of late. They drew 1-1 last week with Fulham, but I think the signing of Brennan Johnson from Spurs, I actually believe is a really good bit of business by Palace. I think it adds, great quickness on the transition. We saw it last season with Spurs that he finished our top goal scorer with, 19 goals. He'll go down as, the guy who scored the winning goal for us in Bilbao. He was, so I really think he'll have a great impact on the team overall, which is why I'm going to go with a 3-2 Newcastle Palace win. Yeah, I'm going to go with that because I think it'll have room for goals as well as a few errors as well between both teams. I think it'll be an entertaining game to watch. Might be even more entertaining than Everton Brentford. And now that I'm looking at it here, but yeah. Next up, we have Sunderland and Spurs. So Spurs host Black Cats. Oh boy, Tottenham, where do we start with them? Boring, boring Tottenham Hotspur. That is the chance, that word, the chance, I should say, that Thomas Frank and the Spurs players were hearing at the end of the game against Brentford. I watched the game. It was absolutely like watching paint dry. Um, Tottenham looked like a wet bag of cement. They just were not doing anything creative. There was nothing there. Both teams set up just to draw it. Even though Brentford showed that they had a little bit more firepower, they had a little bit more gumption in wanting to get something from the game. They created a few chances. Vicario was fine, nothing special. He did what a goalkeeper should do and stop the shots going in the back of the net. And yeah, Spurs going forward did nothing. I don't think Spurs going forward actually even translates nowadays. It's more of a Spurs go side to side back and hoof it up. Hope for a corner. If we get something, we do. If we don't, we'll take it all. That seems to be the message that Frank is giving to the players, which I don't think any Spurs fan is really wanting. But it'll be interesting to see how they get on now against Sunderland, who have been absolutely flying. They put in a savage performance against Man City. I watched the highlights of it. I was really impressed with them, really impressed by even just the gutsiness and the the ballsiness of them to just go at City. City kind of I'd say were a bit stunned that Sunderland just were coming at them out of they left them with no breathing room, no airtime at all from what I was seeing anyway. So Sunderland I think are going to walk over Spurs. I can't see Spurs doing anything in this game, which is why I'm going to go Sunderland 2, Tottenham nil. Spurs might nick a goal from a set piece, but overall I'm not going to be too impressed by them, to be honest. Last but not least, then we have Man City versus Chelsea. So Chelsea obviously are in search for a new manager. They have gone and parted ways with Enzo Maresca a couple of days ago, and so I think as this recording, Rossinier is being linked to as being one of he's being touted as one of the main candidates to replace them. GB, the judges of that scene, any Chelsea fans who are watching this, what do you think of Rossinier if he comes in? I've been impressed with him with Strasbourg, but it's a different level, going from Strasbourg and Liga to all the way up to Chelsea, who are title challengers. They are. Anyone who says they aren't, I would strongly suggest have a look at them in the table and how they're performing because they are. But that being said, my opinion of that could change after this weekend against Man City, who City they put in a good performance against Sunderland, but they weren't firing on all fours. Could that be down to just Sunderland being really, really defensive or not defensive, but really, really good at breaking Man City down and negating the likes of Haaland or Turkey, possibly. Um, but that being said, I still think City. on the back of what week has transpired with Chelsea, I think City will take full advantage of it, and I think that they're going to win 3-1 comfortably. So yeah, that is my game week 20 predictions. Let me know what you think. Am I right in saying Everton Brentford's going to be a goal fest? Probably not. Am I right in saying Spurs are going to get hammered? I would 2-0 by Sunderland. I would nearly bet my house on it that yeah, they are gonna lose to Sunderland. Or will Forest upset Villa? Could they add a back-to-back defeat for Emery and Villa's side and put their title charge to a little bit of a halt? Let me know what you think down below in the comments section below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, please, and thank you. Hit the red button below for the subscribe. And yeah, thanks again for watching the video, and thanks for all those who have clicked on the video, watched it, subscribed, all that good stuff and jazz. And stay tuned because now that transfer window season is approaching, or we're in it, I have a few videos coming out over the next couple of weeks based on who I think Spurs should sign, but realistic and in a dream scenario. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Bye.